So something also of note that's happened, at least in British politics over the last few days, is that the government, our government, has done a bit of a U-turn on whether there shall be a national inquiry into the grooming gangs scandal, which should really be called the Pakistani rape gang scandal. But so that's the story. A few months ago, well, there's been pressure on them for years to have a full national inquiry. I'll talk about exactly what that means in a minute. But there's been pressure on them for a long time, previous governments as well, to launch a full national inquiry, and they've always refused. And a few months ago, it came up again. It was sort of the hot political potato of the moment in the headlines and things, and the government refused to. We even saw Jess Phillips just say, no, we're not going to do that.
Vile woman.
Yeah.
Absolutely vile.
Yeah, truly a disgusting individual. But now, in the last couple of days or so, they've done a U-turn, essentially saying, oh no, we are going to. There's various reasons. All sorts of pressure has been kept up on them to do it. There's just a number of interesting sort of points we could talk about on this. Why exactly have they crumbled or seemed to crumble on this? Why now exactly? And really, will it achieve much or anything as well? So there's a number of things to talk about on this. I suppose the first thing might be the timing on it. Maybe we could mention that Rupert Lowe, the estranged Reform MP, now independent, he was trying to get together, or is trying to get together, parliamentary support. And I don't think it's too cynical to suggest that maybe they're trying to undercut him, cut the legs away from him politically, by actually going ahead and finally doing a full national inquiry, so he doesn't get any of the sort of the political spoils from it, or any sort of limelight from it in any way, shape or form. There's that angle. Could be accused of being a bit cynical for saying that, but I don't think so. That makes perfect sense. The other thing is there is just lots and lots of pressure from all over the place, again, for many years to do this. But there have been, I've got to say, there have been a fair few inquiries over the years, not a full national parliamentary one, but there's been all sorts of inquiries about it over the years. People, we know lots of what's happened. People like Sarah Champion or Maggie Oliver, lots of people have written books, and there's been investigations, been talked about in committee. There's been questions in Parliament, all sorts of things. It's not like we need a national inquiry to understand what happened, or is still happening, actually. Still happening. We kind of know. This would just be a bit of a rubber stamp on it, or it'd be more than a rubber stamp. I'm underselling it there. It'd be more than a rubber stamp, but we kind of, anyone that knows or will already know what it should conclude. The problem is, my big problem with it is that in the past, very often, one of these big national inquiries, what it turns out to be is an exercise from the establishment to put a lid on things, and then when it's all over, they'll come to like the most milquetoast or even incorrect conclusions. And then afterwards, they'll say that's the end of it. There's a line drawn under it now. You've had a national inquiry. That's it. They've done all the investigation there is to be done, and that's the end of it. Move on. There's nothing more to see here now. There's loads of examples of this. A number of inquiries about the Iraq war, why exactly Tony Blair went to war with Iraq and stuff. There's been lots of inquiries. I mean, look at the COVID inquiry. It's a complete whitewash. This thing could, I fear, this thing could end up as a whitewash. It ends up concluding the civil service or the government pick the main important players in the inquiry, and they're their own hand-picked people, and they come to the conclusion that it's not as bad as everyone thought it was, and it was only because of white racism, and the girls were all slags anyway, and that's the end of the story. Move on. I fear that's often what these national inquiries actually do. Is that?
Yeah. Anyway. Well, so timing-wise, you're right. So there's a few avenues to look at timing wise. So Rupert Lowe's one of them, right?
Mm.
But then also Dominic Cummings openly stated, there was a cover up in Whitehall. Basically, they were afraid, like they purposely covered it up. This was intentional. And you're like, well, one, you should have blew the lid on it when you were able to, when you actually had a more powerful voice. You coward.
Yeah,
You
thanks for nothing,
absolute
Dominic.
disgusting coward. Right? Don't give people props for doing it now. No, not retroactively. No, he's disgusting. Like for happily just sitting there going, yeah, blah 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 blah. No. You're disgusting. You're disgusting. Now you're gonna say it. No, you're gross, mate. You're absolutely foul. You should have said it when you're at the height of your power. You're disgusting. Anyway, sorry, it's frustrating.
No,
Because
it's right.
people's lives being completely ruined.
I couldn't agree more. When you see someone like Suella Braverman or Preeti Patel say, "Oh, well, we should have. Why aren't Labour stopping the boats? Like, you were the Home Secretary. Why didn't you stop the boats? Why is immigration so high? Yeah, why is it, Preeti, Suella? Yeah, don't give me it. Don't tell me that you couldn't have done anything. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Sorry. Carry on.
But so that's obviously a massive issue. He's come out and said stuff like that, and then obviously Rupert Lowe. But you're right. At the end of the day, we all know, anyone who's done any ounce of research into this, everyone is aware of what has happened and is still going on. We know what it is. We know how these people operate. We know who they target. It's textbook pretty much every single time. It's exactly the same way that these individuals operate. So what else would this inquiry show? Well, not a lot, quite frankly, because as you say, the civil service will get to choose, the government will get to choose, they will get to choose how this is conducted. And what this will be is an exercise in futility, right? It's an exercise in a public cover-up. That's effectively what it will be. It will be, yes, this has happened. As you said, yes, this has happened, but it's not as bad as what you were saying. And actually, immigration's still a good thing. Because remember, not you know this, but anyone watching is that, and everyone watching knows this as well. I'm preaching to the choir. But remember is that the liberal world order, the governments of the West, want your countries flooded with foreigners. They want the country flooded with immigrants. They will not publicly do something which will jeopardize that on a widespread basis. They just won't. Like, why would they? They're not going to. So there is no way, unequivocally, there is no way that this will reveal truly what it needs to reveal. Because actually what needs to happen, discounting what's happening to this day still, but what needs to happen is people being arrested and put in prison, right? Any police officer that turned a blind eye to children should be in prison, because that's a crime. You've let someone get raped, an underage girl have intercourse. You've allowed that to happen. That's rape, statutory rape. So that they should be in prison. That's not really a stretch. People should have, anyone who covered it up should be, charges should be filed, their pensions should be completely removed. Remember, we're still paying for these people to live a pretty happy, comfortable life right now with their state pension, which they would have got from their high up positions. Anyone in the civil service that knew that, there's the Muslim network that's within the civil service. If they had anything to do with it, which unequivocally they would have done, obvious. I don't even need to know. I can speculate, and that I'm probably going to be 99% correct on this. All of them should be completely just gutted. They shouldn't be there anyway, but that should be reason to gut them completely from the civil service. But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It won't. The findings won't be, yeah, they're all basically from what is it, Kashmir in Mirpur in Pakistan or whatever it is. They're at area in Pakistan that they're basically all from. It won't be, well, clearly there's an issue with these Pakistanis. Let's probably stop letting them come into the country, which obviously that should be the outcome. Obviously there's an issue with this particular, group of people, this subset of people and their culture that is leading them to do this. Yeah, we should probably never let them in this country ever again. No, that won't be the outcome, but that should be the outcome. But this will just be a cover-up, effectively, a public one. So it'll be pipe down. We're giving you what you want, pipe down. Oh, sorry, I've rambled a lot there. Sorry.
No, I really hope that's not the case, but I fear it will be. That's my fear. Because as I say before, there's been all sorts of inquiries over the years. For example, the police did an internal thing, right? I think it was in Manchester, specifically like the Manchester police, because they dropped the ball so clearly, so obviously, to the degree where it sort of couldn't be swept under the carpet. But yeah, like a very, very small number of senior policemen were basically forced to retire early with their pensions, and that's it. Yeah, no prosecutions. Yeah, right.
Still on my money.
How many councillors, nearly always Labour councillors, knew about this and didn't do anything about it, if not actively covered it up? Because there's one thing to pretend to be deaf and to lie by omission and to just simply do nothing. There's a whole other thing to actively destroy evidence and things, which it seems, if you believe people like Maggie Oliver, did happen. Yeah, and then all the way up to actual to politicians, all the way up to sort of secretaries of state. Yeah, let alone people like senior civil servants in Whitehall that would have known things and actively done nothing, if not proactively prevented it from being sorted out. Yeah, that's what we need. We need lists of, it must be dozens, almost certainly hundreds, potentially thousands of specific individuals that should be prosecuted. Will this inquiry do that? I hope so, but I would put I'd put hundreds of pounds on that it won't do that.
Oh, I would bet £1 million that it's not going to happen. I don't have £1 million, but I'm happy to bet my entire future life savings on all of this. It's never going to happen because, again, remember, it's not even just that, right? It's not the thousands of people in power. It's also, well, hey, hold on a minute. We're going to get the evidence which will indicate that there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of white girls being systematically abused, right, by Pakistani Muslims in gangs. Right. Okay. Well, who are they being sold to? It's not just the people that were grooming them, it's the people that they were being groomed for. Okay, well, that's entire communities, that's entire towns that need to be gathered up, either chucked in the public docks, right, hung, whatever. I don't think that's too harsh, to be honest. Or completely just kicked out of the country forever, right? Like but that's just never going to happen. But that's the outcome, because they have to have been given to someone. They weren't just groomed for them. I mean, they had business. They were sent around places. The girls will tell you that, right? It was a lot of people. It's a big community that were doing it. They shouldn't be here, but that won't be the finding. And any inquiry that doesn't have that as the outcome is a farce.
A whitewash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I fear that'll be the case. Fingers crossed it won't be. I mean, it is better than nothing, I suppose. Well, it is. Well, I mean, that's sort of the argument I'm making. It might not be. It might not be. It might be counterproductive if our ultimate aim or goal is to prosecute the thousands of traitors that in our own midst that facilitated it, and then the thousands of actual sex criminals that partook in it. If they're not held to account, is it worse than nothing?
I can't. Yeah, I would imagine it's insulting more to the victims. I don't want to speak for them, obviously, but one would imagine having a performative inquiry when they've been calling out for a national inquiry for so long would be incredibly frustrating and insulting. So I'd say it's worse.
This thing I'm talking about, where it'll be a whitewash. I mean, have you ever watched Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister?
Yeah.
In that, they talk about the cynicism behind most national inquiries. It's so we can come to our conclusion about things, so we can drive the narrative on things and get what we want. That's what it is. It's an exercise in that. So
yeah,
I just hope this isn't that, but I just fear it will be.